Hello, and welcome to the last day of the 12 Days of Christmas in July for 2019. Today, I have a fun shaker card that I know you're just going to love. And it's actually a case of myself. And what does that mean? That means that I've decided that I really loved this card. And there were a lot of features that I loved about it. I loved the snowflake in the middle. I liked this like kind of background feature that goes along with it. And I loved the big bold sentiment. So I decided to take this layout and some of the elements and riff off of that into today's project. So this is what you would call casing. Now, whether you case someone else, where you should definitely 100% all of the time give them credit for how you were inspired, or you case yourself because you have a project and you want to try something similar with just some different products and colors and such, it's all the same. So I encourage you to take a look at some of your previous favorites and see if you can riff off of them too and come up with something brand new and fun. So we're going to get started with this. And the first step is to take some hot press watercolor paper and make this really cool background. So I'm using Alta News magenta ink, and I'm just going to get some going in my inkwell here. And I just have my watercolors going, so I'm good to go there. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water to get started. Hot press paper will take lots of ink and lots of water, so you don't have to worry about being overly generous. I want to get this flowing right away. So see, I have a nice little circle going on here, and I'm just going to start adding in the ink. And I want to go for this kind of loose sphere kind of thing. So I'm just going to keep expanding it until it gets to the point where I'm pretty happy with where it's at. And then I'm even going to kind of go around outside the edges and really make it kind of impressionist in a way. And as soon as I run out of ink here, of course, I'm going to go ahead and add some more. I really need to get a re-inker for this color because I use it a lot for my watercoloring, and it's just, sometimes it's just a pain to use the little square, although it works, as you can see. So let me add in just a little bit more, and I think this will be good. And then I'm just going to go ahead and heat set it. Now I really want to see some of those little swooshy lines in here, so I'm not afraid to come out and add a little bit more just to get some depth going. All right, so that should be pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and let this dry. And when I come back, we'll add in a sentiment and do some die cutting and put this all together. All right, so my piece here is all nice and dry. I do have a little bit of warpage going on, and that's because I didn't have it down on a hardboard or anything. But I'm not too concerned about it because I've got my Sizzix sticky sheet in my stamp positioner, and that's going to help keep everything in place. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a firm press so that it stays down. And then I am going to even put some magnets just on the bottom or in the center here, so that way this area down here at the bottom stays in place. So there we go. So I'm just using my VersaFine Clear in Nocturne to give this a nice bold black finish. And the watercolor paper is going to take just a little bit longer to absorb. So if you're in a rush working on this project, I would definitely recommend heat setting this after you get your impression done. We're going to fill in some of that time by working on the card base while this sets, but you can see that it takes definitely more than one stamping to get a good impression. So you're going to want to use a stamp positioner because you're probably not going to get a first impression that's super rich and black if you just use a stamp block. So that's almost there. I just need a little bit more in this area. So just do some selective inking to get those spots. There we go. So this is really, really saturated with black right now. So I'm going to set this aside and pull out our card base, and we'll work on that while this dries a little bit. Okay, so if you caught yesterday's video, I used the same mirror card, and I'm going to use the same process with the scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive. So that way I don't get any kind of extra stray adhesive on the front side, because it's just, you can't get it off. You just can't. So I cut these just a hair short so I have no overhang, and I end up with just a little bit of a border all the way around, which is fine. And then peel off just a little bit of the edge and fold it back. And then I'm going to align it up into the corner here and down to the bottom, and make sure that I have that lined up pretty good before I press, because if I press first and it's all wonky, it's never coming up. So that's a piece wasted. All right, so now that that's on there good, I can just pull out this backing, and there you go. You have a beautiful mirrored piece of cardstock. All right, so this piece is all nice and dry. I did use the heat gun on the black just to make sure that everything is set in there really nice. And now we can go ahead and apply the snowflake for die cutting. Now we're going to go this way with it instead of the other way, like I did on the sample that I'm riffing off of, because it's not going to fit that way, right? It's going to go right into the R. But check this out, it fits perfectly like so. So I'll pop two pieces on here and I'll run that through the die cutter. All right, so that was cut through, and I did run this through a few times just to make sure that I got a good cut. Sometimes with the more intricate dies you need to do that. Or if you have one of the precision plates, one of the metal plates, that will help this come out really easily too. So I'm taking this out super careful because I definitely want to save this hot pink snowflake. I mean, who knows when you're going to need a hot pink snowflake for a project, right? So this goes into the save pile for sure. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to flip this guy over, and I have a piece of acetate here. And this is just like a leftover that I had from putting stamp sets together or something like that. So just trim this up a little bit. Doesn't need to be super neat. It's going right on the back here. And it doesn't need to be adhered very laboriously. It just needs to go down. I will put a few little drops on these guys here though, because that will help keep the snowflake in place on the front side. But very tiny drops because I don't want it to smush out. That's the key when you're putting down this piece of acetate. You don't want it to smush out on the other side because it's not super easy to clean, just like that gold. All right, so this guy is on there. And I'll give these guys a push too. Okay, so now I've got my acetate on the back. I can go ahead and do some spatter. So I'm going to do both gold and white. So this is from Altenew. And it can go everywhere. And then I'm going to also use Picket Fence Distress Spray Stain. And add some spatters of that. Okay, so everything is ready to go, and I almost forgot to press play again, or record. I put a piece of foam on the back before I remembered to press the button, so here we are. And I just added a piece of fun foam on this back strip here because I wanted some extra support. And I really, when I create shaker cards, I really like to get a lot of support. So I've got my fun foam on the back there, but the rest I'm going to use just some foam adhesive. And the one thing I need to be careful about is making sure that these 1/4 inch strips don't overhang the card and that it doesn't overhang into the snowflake. So there may come a time, like on this spot here, we just need to do like a little notch. And that'll keep the shaker contents inside, but keep you from seeing the foam on the front side. And then of course one across the top. All right, now that is plenty to do your shaker card. I like to add a little bit more because when I'm working with something like Catherine Pooler, the sequins here, there's not a lot in the container. I'm not complaining about that because I'm not a big sequins user. So I like that there's not a lot in the container, but when I do a project like this, I want to maximize, and I don't want to like have to go overboard with buying a whole bunch of sequins, especially if I'm going to make a lot of these. So I do two things. One, as you can see here, I'm adding an extra foam. And this will give it a little bit more rigidity, which is nice, but it also keeps me from needing to add a whole bunch of extra. So, oh, and I just want to put some pieces across the bottom so it has something to stick to easily. And then the other thing I'm going to do is use some filler. And I think you're really going to like this because everybody gets this stuff. Okay, so I have this guy full, and I'm going to go ahead and peel off all of the backing first. Now, 50-50 on if this will work or not. Sometimes you have to be just a little more careful if you do it this way. If you do it the other way, where you put everything inside and then you peel the backing off, then you have to make sure that the card doesn't jump all over the place. Otherwise, you'll get stuff on your sticky backing, and then it doesn't seal, and it's a mess, and you spend time fixing up your shaker card. Probably more time than it took you to make it. Okay, so I have all those pieces off. So actually, I happen to have a little mix over here because I started doing this before I hit the record, so I'm just going to drop this in here. But you can see I've got the awesome Catherine Pooler stuff in here. But I also have this other little snowflakey looking stuff. And what is that? Well, if you haven't looked over here yet, look over here. It's silica gel. So this comes in all sorts of products to help keep moisture from seeping into things. And it comes in two different styles. It's this little pillow pack and the silica gel beads. So the pillow pack looks just like this clear snow stuff, and it can be recolored into any color you want. And the silica gel beads, of course, are beads, and those can also be recolored. And I just throw in a drop of dye ink and swirl it around and let it soak it up, and you get awesome colored beads and sprinkles that you can add to your shakers. So now that I've got all that in there, I can just put my backing on it. Let's check for leaks. Looks pretty good. All right, so now I can just add this to the card and we will be finished. So I am just going to put a little bead glue underneath here. And then glue here. And there we go. With the mirror card, I like to just press for a little longer just to make sure that it adheres really well. But that's all it needs, and there you go. So a super, super fun card and a super way to end this amazing 12-day journey that we've had to get ready for the holidays 5 months in advance. So I hope you have enjoyed each and every one of the projects. Please don't forget to get all of your comments in, both here and on the blog, so that way you can be entered into the 12 days of giveaways and the grand prize giveaway of a $25 gift certificate to scrapbook.com. I hope you have enjoyed this series as much as I have, and please do subscribe and join me for all of the other videos that I do on a weekly basis here on YouTube, and follow me on my blog as well, Pixel Maven's Retreat. I hope to see you here soon, but until next time, happy crafting.